So not only are men done with the games, the antics, things that they deem to be a waste of time, but they're also walking away in terms of their pocketbooks. And I was going on a walk with a couple of friends of mine. We were in a parking lot. It's connected to a mall. And there's a store, rather, one that used to be there. No sign in front, nothing inside the windows. And it used to be a bridal store that was around for a number of years. Now, if it isn't obvious, I'm not the normal clientele at that store. They sell everything from wedding dresses to whatever else drags on the ground when walking at a speed of approximately 2 miles per hour. And I was curious if this was maybe a one-time example for this particular location closing, or if this was going on in a broader sense, not just within bridal stores, but also department stores perhaps, and to really not much of a surprise, many of them have been closing their doors over the past few years. And I'm sure a lot of us have a store from childhood we remember. I know Sears was a big one for me, a lot of family memories there. I know someone that even has a washing machine that somehow still works that he bought however many years ago. But I heard this worded very well. Essentially that companies, along with modern dating, have relied on the male provider mindset for a very long time. And now that it is slowing down, you're seeing businesses close, and you're really seeing modern women, in a way, panic, seeing that these things are not as abundant as they used to be. So with men being done spending money on modern dating, opting out of this status game, I'm sure we've all seen examples of women who will complain about men not covering the bill on dinner dates, saying they want this traditional sort of dynamic, really when it only applies to them from what I've seen for the most part. And with that, I've heard of women who will make profiles on dating apps, and beyond just the usual attention and validation, wanting to get free meals. So really having no intention to date, but wanting to go out and have these guys buy the meals on the first date. And which is already so bizarre to expect that from someone you barely even know or don't know at all. But I've heard claims, and maybe this is just stuff I've seen, but I've heard claims of women who think a guy should spend $500 on a first date, again, with someone they barely even know or don't know at all. And I don't even know how that's possible in the first place. Now, the most expensive meal that I was a part of, it was about 10 years ago. It was over the holidays with family. We were at a restaurant, a very high-end restaurant. It was white tablecloths and all. And it was about 8 to 10 people, and I believe the total of the bill for the whole table was around $1,400, so close to $150 per person, right? Not $500 for two people. And even the last time my grandma was in town, I took her to a steakhouse, and this place was on the top of a roof, almost looked like a stage from Tekken or something. Even still, the bill was nowhere near $500. So that in itself is already ridiculous. And when it comes to the cost of living, which has been climbing and seemingly keeps climbing, right? That's no secret. Even if someone is comfortably or very well off, they see the price at the grocery store, they see the price of the gas station. But men are looking at the dinner dates. They're looking at the cost of entry, perhaps, if you will, and they're seeing it is not worth it. They are seeing that investment is not at all worth it. So they're really, what they're being is financially responsible. And the real question is, if men are not spending their money on that, then what are they spending their money on? And I've been seeing a lot of people get into home gyms, getting into taking martial arts classes, really different skills, things that are going to be beneficial, which is what they should be doing. I would say, if anything, if you're going to spend your money, let it be on something that is going to be worthwhile. And another problem that I see a lot when it comes to, you could say the entitlement for certain, but the behavior that I've seen from a lot of modern women is no understanding that success or financial independence, or however you want to put it, it takes time. And I knew someone when I was in my very early 20s who was on his way to law school. He just finished his bachelor's, and he was dating a girl at the time. And he found out she was gossiping about him behind his back. And she made some comments along the lines of, he's not financially independent, he can't be a provider. Keep in mind, this was a guy who was on his way to law school in his early 20s, saying all this stuff. And what I find so funny about it is he's the guy who's going to be able to provide, going to be able to be financially independent. And because she wasn't on a yacht like she saw on Instagram in her early 20s, she decided to talk about him behind his back. And it's just so ridiculous. And when it comes to things like this, you have to ask yourself, why would any man want to play part in those sorts of games? Why would anyone want to put the time in and be with someone who's not only not going to support them during the process, but wouldn't appreciate it to begin with because they think that they can always do better? There'd be something else to complain about. Even if he was self-made, it would be, oh, well, it's not his money, it's his family's money. Whatever the excuse is, he didn't pay for college on his own. Now, another comment she made, because I want to tie this into a little bit more the cost of living here, which is certainly a part of this, but really not the main reason. Making a comment along the lines that he lived with his parents, and kind of to go hand in hand with the not being financially independent part, which if you're someone watching this, or you have been in this position where you're in your late teens or early 20s and you can live with your parents and of course make their lives easier and help them, but if you can do that and study or get into a trade or learn a skill or a new job, whatever it might be, save your money, and not have to worry about the rent, then I would say by all means do it. Don't fall into the what the mindset of a modern woman thinks about if you're 20 years old and live with your parents. I mean, who cares? This is something that I see as very, very strange. The push of what he needs to provide for me. And keep in mind, this was a girl he met at a nightclub, which, yeah, already mistake number one, but things didn't go on much longer. Now, when it comes to this sort of outlook and really the effect that this is going to have, there's been a couple major department stores in particular that were in the area, and many of them have closed. Malls in themselves are not nearly as busy as they used to be. And that's exactly what happens when men walk away and when they invest in things that they see that are worthwhile. Not the expensive dinner dates, not the article of clothing that they didn't need to buy. And I'm someone, of course, who I understand treating yourself. I think it's good to have nice stuff, but you don't just do it for women. And I think most men understand that. But when it comes to this soon to be, if it isn't already, financial panic that I think we're going to see among a lot of modern women, it is going to be because the dinner dates are not being a thing anymore. The first time dinner dates with someone you don't even know are not going to be a thing anymore. And even many years ago, I think probably a decade or so, the cost of entry used to be a lot cheaper. Even dating apps at one point, for the most part, were free. But having to play all these games, having to be the court jester is the best way to put it, I guess. Nobody has time for it. Let's say someone is financially independent. They don't have time for those kind of games. Let's say someone is in the process of being more stable financially. They do not have time for those sorts of games. They just don't. I've been seeing a lot of this, and it's not even about being thankful. I think it's just entitlement. I don't think there'd be any amount of being thankful even if there was a guy who was financially independent, or if money wasn't a thing to them, right? They could go and spend however much on the dinner dates and still pay for all their necessities, and it wouldn't be a problem. That's what I really think it comes down to. I don't think there's anything wrong if someone has a wife and kids that, obviously they would know for many years, and there's a level of respect there. You want to go out and have a family dinner with them? Great. But this notion of someone that you barely know or don't even know, and really at a surface level is not even being respectful to begin with. It doesn't make any sense to spoil them in any sort of way. It really doesn't make any sense at all. This talk of high-end restaurant, don't take me to this place, don't go to this commercial place, don't go, even if it's a nice, right, sit-down restaurant, they want to go to the highest end place and somehow rack up $500, which I guess there's a lot of take-home leftovers there for it to be $500, or food just going back to the kitchen. I don't even know how that makes sense, like I mentioned. But stuff like that is exactly why so many men are done. It's exactly why. And even when it comes to prices, right? This is where I mentioned the cost of entry. I got a friend of mine who will every now and then send me these kind of nostalgia videos. And there's a few of them that will, or a couple in particular, set in the 80s and 90s, showing a menu at a restaurant and the price difference. And it's a very big difference, to say the least. Right now, and I've talked to people in other areas, but anytime I have gone out with friends to get food with tip, it's usually close to $30. That's really across the board now from what I've seen. So it's not cheap at all. And this habit of provide constantly, dinner date constantly, not only is it not sustainable, but it's really of no understanding of what so many men are going through. And I'll say this much. That's why really the best thing we can do is uplift one another. When people talk about it being hard to find genuine friends with honor, with loyalty, which I certainly agree, it's hard to find. Certainly a lot easier to find than a woman worth dating seriously. I'll put it that way. Right? I think that's why a lot of men have not given up in the pursuit of finding their tribe, if you will. But that's really the best thing that we can do. And if there's going to be someone that is constantly taking and taking and taking and taking and giving nothing in return, not even any form of respect, then there is no way that it is going to work. I've seen things where a guy will be a provider and there is disrespect, things that she shouldn't be posting on social media, places that she should not be going while in a relationship. I've seen all of it. And it is exactly why so many men are they're just done. What else can you do besides walk away, right? I mean, if anyone's seeing something that is disproportionately taking, I'm sure we've maybe seen that friend or had that friend in the past who, when we were maybe more naive, didn't have our boundaries set as much, have dealt with people who maybe constantly take. That's exactly what modern dating feels like. An endless roller coaster of giving and giving and giving and getting nothing in return. So that's really exactly why so many men are done. And as always, guys, I appreciate you for viewing the video. Hope you guys have a great day. Thank you.